Welcome to Good Grief Mama. I'm Allie, wife and mom of 3, and this is a podcast for honest conversations about motherhood and marriage and homeschooling and homemaking. So if you've ever felt called to do motherhood or marriage just a little differently, or if you've ever wondered, why is no one talking about this? Then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you're here. This episode is sponsored by Restore Your Core Physical Therapy. Hey mamas, you spend your days making sure that everyone else is taken care of, but who's looking after you? The doctors of physical therapy at Restore Your Core PT get it. From pelvic floor therapy, infertility support, birth prep, and optimal fetal positioning to that nagging back, hip, or knee pain that you've been putting off, they've got you covered. All one-on-one care, all with a doctor who has time to really listen. With locations in Carmel, West Carmel, Zionsville, Brownsburg, and Greenwood, expert care is close by. Visit restoreyourcorept.com or call or text 317-597-6323. Make sure you mention the Good Grief Mama podcast for $50 off a 90-minute evaluation or $25 off a 60-minute evaluation. You've been taking care of everyone else, and now it's your turn. All right, welcome back, Good Grief Mama listeners. I am so excited about today's episode. I can't even tell you. I feel like there are some episodes where I record and I'm like, this is a great episode and somebody is going to get so much out of this. And then there are other episodes that I record and I'm like, wow, I needed this episode. And that is this episode. So I have a guest speaker on today who is talking all about teaching our daughters about their cycles. And I think this is so important. There is a newer reemergence of this younger generation who want to learn about their cycles and who want to cycle sync and, do all the things that are good for what phase of cycle you're in, or phase of your cycle that you're in. And I think that's great because my generation and possibly the generation before us we didn't learn that. We didn't learn anything about our cycles. And so this is a key episode, I feel like, for us to just tune in so that we can learn a little something, but also so that we can have the resources to teach our daughters about their cycle so that they will be able to teach their daughters and their daughters and their daughters. And we start a new cycle, a new generation of people who understand their cycles and don't have to wait until they're 36 to know exactly what they're doing. So my guest today, her name is Jennie Radar, and she's a wife, she's a mom of 5, and she is a passionate holistic health practitioner who is dedicated to helping women cultivate vibrant health. So with her background in both nutrition and nursing, she has spent over 2 decades supporting women and families as a nurse, a doula, and a childbirth educator. She's also trained as a practical homeopath and loves equipping moms and families to use homeopathy in the home as a gentle and effective way to support health and vitality. Her work is rooted in the belief that true health encompasses our mind, our body, and spirit, and she teaches from that integrative framework through both her one-on-one health coaching and through the courses that she offers through Rooted in Health and Home, which is her company. So Jennie also teaches cycle awareness to young women and their mothers, which I think is so cool. And she talks about that today. And that really fits in with what we're talking about for sure. And she really has this belief that hormonal health is foundational and that a healthy understanding of our body should begin early in life. So she's passionate about supporting women through every season of womanhood and helping them thrive through simple, sustainable rhythms that nourish their body and soul. And when she's not teaching or coaching, she enjoys cooking nourishing meals, opening her home to family and friends, and serving at her church and exploring national parks and hiking with her family. She is, I say this in the episode, she's like my spirit animal. She's who I want to be when I grow up. My kids are starting school. We're starting our homeschool year and they have a little box, that says like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Mine would be Jennie Radar. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear her today. And what I want you to do though right now is to stop, pause the episode. I know that sounds counterintuitive. Pause the episode and leave me a rating and review. Click the like button. Leave a comment on the episode, whatever it is, interact with my episode so that other people can hear this important message that she has for us too. But right now, I'm so excited for you guys to hear Jennie. All right, Jennie. Well, thank you for coming on the Good Grief Mama podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, why don't you just tell my audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah. So I am a wife and mom, wife of 25 years. We just celebrated 25 years, and I have 5 children, ages 10 to almost 21. Our oldest just got engaged, so we are entering a whole new season of life.
Oh, that's
Um,
exciting.
and yeah, being a wife and mom is my favorite part of life, and just kind of cultivating family has been my favorite thing and something I always wanted to do. And I've been really thankful to be able to kind of use my other gifts and skills around our family life. And so I trained as a nutritionist first and then a women's health nurse. Worked in labor and delivery and was a birth doula for over 2 decades, just part time around our family life. And a few years back was trained as a homeopath. And so kind of have put all of that together and founded Rooted Health and Home a few years ago so that I could actually I officially founded it last year, but I've been doing this work for a couple of years, just doing holistic health coaching and homeopathic education, a lot of it surrounding women's health. So, yeah, I meet with all sorts of people and just teach them how to cultivate health of mind, body, and spirit, and to let that permeate their family life too. So, that's kind of broad of what I do. But I have some side things that I do as well. But I do a lot of coaching and encouraging, just helping people with all sorts of health issues. A lot of which surround around women's health. That's my passion. So yeah,
Yeah. I got to say, so I was reading on your website, your bio and everything, and I feel like you're my spirit animal. Like you're the person that I want to be. I was
Aw,
seeing you have like chickens and bees and you have like 5 kids, 25 years of marriage. Congratulations. That's amazing.
thanks. Yeah,
The doula, like the homeopathy, everything. It's like you're
yeah.
my spirit animal.
It's kind of been a journey of all those things. Yeah, the little urban farm brings me a lot of joy. We have so much fun. I mean, we have less than an acre, but we have a little garden area and chickens. And yeah, a couple years ago, my husband and I started doing bees, and we're still learning. Very novice beekeepers, but it's just been fun. Been fun to learn together, and yeah, just cultivate a new skill at the stage of life. So we finally felt like we didn't have littles underfoot, and we could do that. So it's been really fun. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's so cool. That's like goals right there. Yeah. Once there's no really littles underfoot.
yeah. And you can do those other things. Yeah, we wanted to
Right.
do it for a long time, but finally, we're in the season where we can do it. So it's been fun.
Well, cool. So,
Yeah.
what brought you into and to make you so passionate about women's health?
Yeah, great question. I studied nutrition for 4 years and loved it. I just loved thinking about how food intersects with health in general. And then towards the end of my degree, I was thinking about maybe going on to nursing school. And that's a long story, but my friend's mom was a labor and delivery nurse. And she said, "Why don't you come do a shift with me?" And this is like 1999. And I just walked into the hospital and did a shift with her. I didn't sign a paper. Literally, I don't know why they let me in the room, but I was like a fly on the wall watching this birth, and the baby came out, and I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. I was totally hooked. And it started this passion of learning everything I could about birth and midwifery and women's health. And it was just an incredible journey. And then not long after that, I was going to get married, and it went down. This kind of heads into the discussion we're going to go into tonight. But I was trying to figure out whether birth control was something I wanted to use, hormonal birth control. And I really, I didn't even have all the information I have now about how important ovulation is and things like that. But as I started to research it, I realized it was not for me, just kind of intuitively. I didn't even realize how important ovulation was, and just started again studying the cycle, and just was really fascinated. So I've just been fascinated with how our bodies are created and wanting to honor that system. And so it's kind of led me down more holistic paths and paths that just really honor who I was created to be as a woman and wanting to share that passion with others. So it was kind of a couple of different things in my life that gave me that passion. And even my own health story, um, after having my first baby, I had had a loss, and then I had my first baby and just had a really rough postpartum, and a whole bunch of things happened. And just my own health journey, realizing my doctor that I trusted was really not giving me a lot of answers. And so having to go down open different doors to find the answers that were satisfying about my own health, and kind of having to go outside of the box I was trained in to discover there are so many different modalities that can help really bring balance and wellness. And, a lot of what we're doing in the hospital isn't really bringing healing. And I had to reconcile with that. And so eventually left hospital work for something different and spent lots of years just encouraging mamas and being a doula. And, when you're someone's doula, you're in a very intimate space and they trust you with lots of questions. And so coached a lot of women who had similar issues like me with their thyroid and adrenals and different issues I had struggled with. And as I helped them, I was just continuing to learn and find the things that really supported that nobody had taught me, even in nursing school. So it's just been a fun journey. I'm a learner, and I love to just continue to learn and share what I've learned with others. I love teaching. So that's a big part of what I'm doing in this season of life too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that shows a lot about you, because I know a lot of people who work in the healthcare field who it's a lot of mental shifting to think,
Mhm.
okay, this is what I was trained, this is what I do. And then to realize maybe not all of that is helpful,
Yeah,
or I don't know if true is the right word, but maybe not all of that is exactly the best thing that I should be doing. And that takes a
totally.
lot of strength to change your mindset from what you've been taught and what you've been trained. So
Yeah,
that's
I
pretty
think
cool.
it does take a certain level of humility. I was humbled by my own health story, actually. And realizing I think I've always been a question asker too. And so even from a young age, I think I ask the question why a lot. And so when someone says, okay, this is out of whack and take this pill, I'm like, but why? But why did it get out of whack? And what can I do? And so just my natural curiosity kind of leads me down all sorts of paths of, um, and my belief that the body was made good. That is the framework for which I look. And so I've never been really satisfied with, Band-Aid answers. I'm thankful for modern medicine, 100%. I'm thankful for it. But I'm also thankful for these other more traditional ways of supporting our health and really our vitality that have kind of been lost in the shuffle of modern living. And I think I was listening to some of your podcasts about like granny life and, you know, people getting back to sourdough and fermenting things. And I think that is a part of this too. Like, I love, not everyone's interested in that, but for people that in a health way are interested in the timeless ways to support our health, those are what I love to teach. And a lot of them don't cost a lot of money. And you don't need to take a million supplements, and you don't need to do all this biohacking to be well. But we have to really consider body, mind, and spirit when we talk about wellness. We're not just our physical bodies, and we're not just biochemical beings. And so when you go outside of that, you realize there's a lot more to good health than, just your lab work or just even what your physical body is doing. We have to think about our whole person. I'm really attracted to looking through that framework, and so that really influences the work that I do now, and my desire to support women in understanding your body is not against you, it's for you. And if you have symptoms and things going on that don't feel good, that's your body's way of communicating, I need extra support. So it's just a different way of talking about health, I think, that I have kind of come towards over time. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. There's a lot that has shifted, and I don't know exactly when the shift happened, but it has been a shift to like just take some medicine. Something is wrong, and don't listen to the root cause of why it's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
it just is what it is. But this pill will help you. And I
Yeah.
think in the desire to help people by creating a medicine, that would help, we have lost our curiosity as to why is this wrong in the first place? What
Right.
has what's off balance that's making this happen. And I think understanding our bodies as women is something that got lost. Because
Totally.
I mean, I told you when we were talking like on our little phone interview before this, where I was like, I still like I've had 3 children. I'm in my 30s. Like I still don't know my body very well. Like I'm still trying
Yeah.
to figure it out. And it's just not something I don't think my mom was taught about hers either. And so,
No.
it's not her fault that I don't know about it. I
Yes.
just, there was one point where I even forget what the question was. Oh, it was like my doctor was talking about like our cycles, like, oh, when do you think you ovulated? And I was like, I don't know. How do you know when you ovulate?
Right. Right.
And I literally was like, I should know this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
And you're not alone. I think that's a lot of women. And yeah, when I was on that journey of kind of researching birth control, and again, didn't even understand, I wasn't even in nursing school yet, didn't even understand how important ovulation was. But I did have this intuitive sense of like, oh, birth control shuts down ovulation and my body was made to ovulate. I don't think that's a good idea to like shut that off. And I'm so thankful for that intuition. I think that's the other thing that's been lost a little bit when we've given so much authority to our healthcare providers. We've lost a sense of intuition about our own bodies and knowing what's good for us. So I'm really thankful for that. I think it was from God. I just think it was from God that I had an inner knowing, and that sent me on a journey of learning how my body actually worked. And it
yeah.
was kind of a lonely journey because everyone I knew was on hormonal birth control, really. But it was a fun journey because, at just the right time, I would learn the next step. And yeah, I had no idea that I would then teach others and then be teaching young girls about how to track their cycles. So it's been a really fun journey. God uses everything in our lives. So
For sure. And that's good of you to listen because some people might not have listened to that
I'm
tug.
learning. I'm learning.
Well, so I'm excited to have you to talk about teaching our daughters about their cycles because I mean, I just told you I don't even know about my cycle and I have two I have 2 little girls. I don't know how to talk to them about it, like I'm
Yeah.
currently learning about it myself and my friend and I were talking and this is why I wanted to have an episode like this because we were both like, man, we need to understand this because we're going to have to educate our daughters because we don't want them to be like this like in their 30s and not knowing. Um
Yes.
so when you think about your childhood, what do
Hmm.
you remember about what you like your first experience learning about like your period, your cycles, your body?
Yep. Well, for better or for worse, my mom was pretty open about just her body and what was going on. She really didn't shut the bathroom door when she was going to the bathroom. And so it was just like, I just learned. I saw her having her period and using products. And so thankfully, when I got my period, it didn't seem, it's always a big deal because it's new for you, but it wasn't shocking or anything. She didn't really sit me down and tell me what was going to happen, but I kind of knew just from watching. So I did have that benefit. It wasn't like she was super private and we didn't talk about those things. It was just kind of like part of what I saw and what I experienced. So yeah, when I got my first cycle, of course, I was kind of shy and a little bit like, ooh, I remember sitting with the pull out and the box of tampons, studying it for a long time. Like, oh my gosh, okay, there's that hole and there's that hole.
Yeah.
Because she didn't explain all that. I just
Yeah.
kind of knew that it was coming. And so, yeah, like most girls, there wasn't a good discussion. But I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was just part of being a woman. But I didn't have a lot of good information, I would say. Um, and a lot of girls started before me. So I heard them talking about it at school. And I'm 49. People would say I'm on the rag, which is kind of an old term, but people would talk
I've
about it
heard.
really negatively. So
Yeah.
being on your period was a negative thing. And people would talk about cramps and they took this medicine called Midol. And so I kind of had negative connotations. And I think that is still true. I think, it's interesting and sad that most parts of being a woman are talked about negatively by women.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really want to shift that. I think, yeah, your puberty is kind of hard. And then you get your first period. And then pregnancy is talked about pretty negatively by most people. And then I'm in perimenopause. That doesn't have a lot of positive talking. It's kind of sad that we see it all as this negative thing. And so I've really tried to shift the conversation with my daughters. Yes, there are challenges to being a woman, but being a woman is a superpower and it's incredible. And we can bring forth life. Potentially. We have the potential to bring forth life. And that's incredible. That's an incredible gift that we have the opportunity to take care of. And so I think I've just tried to be careful about how I talk about my body with my girls. I have two girls as well. One's 13 and one's 19. And it's been neat to see them have more body confidence than I had as a little girl because they have heard me talk more positively about my body. And I'm honest, like there are, again, challenges when you get your period right before you go on a camping trip or, there's just things that are challenging, but trying to equip them and then mostly talking positively about these things, I think is the way that we change that for the next generation. So
No, I love that. I think you're right though, because a lot of things are talked about negatively. And even like I just had a baby, just had a baby, like 10,
yeah,
I'm 10 months, 11 months postpartum now.
yeah,
And when I had my first cycle afterwards, I was like, like, man, I
yeah,
wish it wouldn't have come back this soon. And I have a friend, and she goes, "Oh, congratulations!" And gave me a hug and was like, was like, "Can I bring you stuff?" And I'm like, "Why are you celebrating this?"
yeah,
And it was a thing for me to be like, "Oh yeah, this is a good thing. My body is working, like how it's supposed to be. It's
yes,
back to, functioning how it should be."
yeah.
Um, okay, so setting the stage though, why do you think this is an important conversation? Or do you? I assume you do because you're so passionate
Mhm,
about it
mhm.
for moms to have with their daughters.
Yeah. So I think that there's so many reasons I get excited. So just I'll just share like I have the opportunity to teach these cycle awareness courses to young girls and their moms. And I started doing that a year ago. I had been wanting to do it for a while because I had some clients over the years like doula clients who were tracking their cycles like I was. I've been tracking my cycle for 26 years and love doing it, but a lot of people weren't into it. But I had some of the clients that I had were like, "Oh, I've been doing this since I started my period." Well, I learned in college. And when they told me that, I was like, "Wow, that's incredible that your mom taught you how to do that. I would have loved that."
Yeah.
And so I had this desire to teach girls how to do that, but I was a little intimidated by creating a curriculum. I didn't know what that would look like, but I wanted to because I believe if girls know about their body, one, they have a better perspective about how they were made, which is really, really important. Two, they have good information to make good decisions for their healthcare. And I think I've heard so many stories in my career of women who said, "I wouldn't have done that had I known." And taking the birth control pill is just one of those, outcomes of that, but they didn't know. So they didn't have good information. No one gave them what I call informed consent about a decision. And then they made the decision and there were maybe some consequences that they had to deal with that they didn't like. And they're like, "I wish I would have known." And so I've heard that story so many times. I thought, how do we change that for women? Not everybody is necessarily a question asker like I am. But I think that most women do want to know how their bodies work. And so anyway, I wanted to start a course, but I was a little intimidated by coming up with my own curriculum. But there's an organization that I love called Natural Womanhood. And I get their emails. And a little over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I saw an email that said that they had a new curriculum called Period Genius to teach young girls and their moms. It was a curriculum to do together. It was a video-based curriculum. And I was so excited about this. So I reached out to them right away, asked if I could look at some of the videos. And you can watch the videos with your mom just at home, or you can do it in a group setting. And I thought the group setting is so cool because women used to kind of talk about these things as a village. And what if girls could take this sort of course with their moms and their friends' moms? That's really powerful for you to be like, "Okay, I might be a little embarrassed to talk about this, but it's kind of cool that my best friend and her mom know about this, and my other friend and her mom, and they're all together." Whether it's a church group or a friend group or whatever. So anyway, I scheduled a Zoom with the woman who created the content, and I told her my background, and she was like, yes, we would love you to do this in group settings. So that's what I did. So I did a course. I think my first one was about a year ago. And people, I think I posted something on Facebook about it. People were so excited about it. Moms were so excited about it. I did 8 more this last year. It was
Wow.
like people were really craving a class like this. And I think moms want to share good information, but one, they don't have all the information themselves, so it's intimidating. And two, it's like they don't know where to start. It's kind of hard to start talking about your body after dinner on a Tuesday night. So doing the courses kind of created a framework and a place for moms to do something they really wanted to do, but they weren't sure how. And so it's been really, really fun. I think if girls know they can care for themselves better, they can ask better questions, and they can navigate things that are not normal when they come up if they know what's normal. So I think there's so many reasons for girls to have this information.
Yeah. Okay. So as mom, when should we start talking to our girls about this?
Yeah.
It's a good
Well,
age.
yeah, I kind of took a little bit of the same philosophy as my mom of like just being kind of open about my body. And I think my parenting philosophy is the best time to talk about things is as they come up. So if they're little and seeing, some moms are like, oh, I don't want them to see that I'm bleeding. They'll be scared. And I'm like, it's all how you frame it. If they come into the bathroom and you're changing a pad or a tampon, they see blood and they say, "Ooh, what's that? Is mommy have an owie?" or whatever, they're little. Just say, "No, mommy's body bleeds sometimes." And, I use correct body parts. So I explain like out of my vagina sometimes. And that's what my mommy body does. That's normal. And so you're just having these little conversations as they're growing up, then you don't have to have this big conversation that's shocking to them. So just as I took care of myself and I bought things at the store and they're with me, what are those for? Oh, those are for when I bleed about every month. Remember, I bleed. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And so just these little vignettes of conversations. And that's our philosophy about lots of big topics for my husband and I. When I think having one big conversation feels like a lot of pressure, but having lots of little conversations just tends to be easier. So, I think I upped the amount of information I gave them when they got closer to those puberty, when I started to see their bodies changing and notice, ooh, they're starting to have signs of puberty. Then I would give them a little more information as I felt like they were ready for it. And then my girls have taken the courses and even have helped me share the courses with others. So they definitely know all the information now. And it's really cool because my 19-year-old who's in college, she's super into it. And I think this next generation, she follows a girl on Instagram who has a whole Instagram page about cycle syncing. And she's in her early 20s. And my daughter's super into it. And there's even so many apps now where you can track your cycle. And so she and her friends, I should have asked her the name of the app. It's a different one than what I use, but there's an app where it's like almost like social with your friends, and you can see your friends' cycles and when they start.
Yeah.
So
Like, oh, you're
it's
in
a
the
little
luteal
more of
phase.
yeah, it's a little more like community, like we're in this together, sort of, which I think is so cool. We don't have to navigate it alone, like we can navigate it in community. So yeah, it's changing. I feel like this next generation is more open. It's not like hush hush anymore. And there's there's more resources. So, and every time I kind of lead the course, the moms are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about my own body. There's a lot of good information. And I always tell them, you're going to learn something new. I promise. So I think the tides are changing and women are starting to, yeah, fertility awareness is just a bigger thing. Before it was like pop a pill and don't think about it. And I think women are starting to understand that wasn't necessarily what was best.
Yeah. All right. So you kind of just talk about it in natural life, as
Yeah.
things are happening, as they're coming up. At what age are most people taking this course that you have?
Yeah. The course, I say 9 to 14. Although I had a class that had girls all the way from 8 to 18 because a mom brought several of her girls and they were all different ages. And that's really, really fun when we have just all different ages. And, you know, the 18-year-old did know a lot of the information, but she too learned something new. And then all the way down to 8, you know, if an 8-year-old can sit and engage, then it's great for them to learn. So I've had all the way up to, you know, most girls have their cycles, their bleed by about 18, or not 18, by 15. And
Yeah.
so, it's nice, but a lot of girls start at 12 or 13. So it's nice to get them before that so that they can kind of be ready, and have some of those discussions with their moms before their cycle start. But even if they've already started their cycle, it's totally great to come to the class because they still learn a lot and just be more confident about what's actually happening with their body, not just physically, but also emotionally as well. So,
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I remember I started mine when I was 14. And even though my mom had like told me little things about it, like it scared me.
yeah.
And I was like I was very scared for some reason. And like it was very painful. But yeah, I feel like having some knowledge prior to that, some like good solid knowledge probably would help.
Well, yeah, because you know, one thing we talk a lot about in the course that's never talked about, I think for a lot of women, they feel like the bleed is kind of the big event every month. And the bleed is really not the big event. The big event is ovulation, and nobody talks about that. And nobody taught us that when you ovulate, in healthy ovulation, that you're going to see mucus in your underwear, and it's going to be like egg yolk white. And so, you know, some women feel like there's something wrong with them or they have an infection when they see that and nobody's told them. And now, you know, if you teach them about healthy ovulation, they would see that and go, oh my gosh, my body's doing what it's supposed to do. That's a good thing. You know, kind of like what your friend said to you about your period, like it's doing what it's supposed to do. It just turns the thoughts about it in a different light so that it's not this negative thing. It's like, oh wow, that's so cool. My body's doing what it's supposed to do, even if it's weird. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. So I talk a lot about mucus in the class, and I say at the beginning to the girls, because just the word mucus, people don't like it. And I'll say at the beginning of the class, I'm a nurse and I talk about weird stuff and it might seem gross to you and you might giggle, and that's totally fine. That's your nervous system just like releasing stress. I'm going to say words like mucus and ovulation, and just, you know, just know I'm going to say those words. And at the beginning of the 4-hour workshop, the girls are kind of like, and by the end, they're like totally comfortable. I mean, most of them, it's really neat to see them kind of loosen up, and they've kind of understood we're in this club together where we're talking about this. And it's almost like it feels good to them after they kind of loosen up and they get used to hearing some of the words. Because we're all sitting there and the moms are learning and the girls are learning. So it's this equal learning space for lots of different ages. And so after the initial kind of like, what did my mom bring me to? Like an hour into it, they're kind of like, oh, this kind of feels good to talk about this, even though it feels weird at first. So it's really neat to see the girls really kind of crave the information, most of them.
Yeah.
So,
No, I got to tell you, I can't remember if I said this to you when we were talking previously or not, but like that was me. I thought every month until I might have even had my first baby. I thought every month, I thought I had some kind of yeast infection or
yeah,
something. I was like, something's wrong. And I cannot tell you how many times I would go to the doctor and they would
yeah,
not say, this is ovulation, like this is normal. They would just say, they'd test me or whatever they do. And they'd just be like,
yeah,
nope, you're fine. And then I'd move on my way and I'm
yes,
like, but I'm not. Like,
yes,
nothing is
yeah.
wrong. And then I started reading Taking Charge of Your Fertility.
Such a
Um,
good book.
Oh
Such a
my
good
gosh,
book.
I didn't even finish it. I got through like a couple of chapters and I was like, and I literally
Yes.
called my mom and I was like, Mom, I don't think I've ever had a yeast infection in my life.
Yeah.
How is it that I have been healthy? And it was a
Yes.
good thing. And nobody told me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that book, that was the book that changed everything for me. I told you, like, I was like, I don't think birth control resonates with me. I don't want to do that. But I was like, but yeah, what do I want to do? How do I want to care for my fertility, my combined fertility after I get married? And um, really had been just like praying, like, like, God, what do I do? Like, I want to honor this system, but I also am like heading into nursing school and I'm not sure about getting pregnant right away. And just wondering about what that would look like. And this girl in one of my classes at Michigan State University had this book. And I was like, what is that book? She's like, oh, I'm learning how to track my cycle. And I was like, I've literally been praying for this, and I just inhaled that book. I just was like, that was the information I was craving. And I still have my paper charts from when I got pregnant with my first few babies because they didn't have all the apps. I didn't have a smartphone, but it was just so neat. And I also feel like, this is a side note, but I also felt like it was such a beautiful thing for my husband and I to do together, because I do feel like there's so much pressure on women to be in charge of the fertility part. And you don't have fertility without both of you. A woman ovulates and bleeds and all of that, but there's no fertility except both of you. So we were kind of both caring for it together. And he would look at my chart and say, where are you at? And he was learning too about my body. So it was a really bonding thing for us too, which is a side note from what we're talking about, but I think important because it set me on a path that was really rewarding in lots of ways. And so, of course, when you have a rewarding experience, you want others to experience that. And I know, I've talked about this with many people and they're like super not interested in tracking their cycle. But for the people that are ready, for whatever reason, it's really fun to share with them. Like, oh, no, there's incredible ways that you can track your cycle, and not even just for pregnancy or not pregnancy, but you can tell so many things about what's going on with your hormones. Because again, I'm in perimenopause now and moving towards not having a cycle. And so I can see what's going on pretty clearly. And I know things the doctors don't know about my body. I don't need testing. I can tell from my chart. So it's very empowering in that way. Like, I know my body better than anyone else, and you study it and even if at first it's overwhelming to keep track of what's going on, just like anything else in life, if you learn and you're dedicated to it, it just becomes part of life. It doesn't become this extra thing. It's just what you do. So I'm hoping, and I do think with any habit, if you teach girls when they're younger, it's not as big of a deal. It's hard to teach a 30-year-old to do something she hasn't been doing. But if a girl learns as soon as she starts her cycle, it's just what she does. It doesn't seem like a big deal. So that's another benefit of teaching young girls, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
Yeah.
even just the basic understanding of like what ovulation means and what that means for your body, I think would be excellent to have that young, because maybe obviously they're not trying to get pregnant when they're first starting their periods. But like, I remember as a teen, like I didn't grow up Christian, but I became a Christian when I would get into high school. And I remember all of my friends like had very, very weird ideas about how you could get pregnant. Or like when you could get pregnant, they were like, it could be any time, or like, and even after I got married, some of my friends who had waited until they were married and that kind of stuff, they were like, well, we could get pregnant anytime. So like, we have to do this. And it's like, after I read that, I'm like, there's only a few days, like that you are really at risk. If you know when those days are.
Yeah.
And so that base knowledge, I feel like it's obviously you're not tracking fertility when you're a teen, but like just knowing what that means for your body is just very
100%.
important.
Well, and even ovulation, again, pregnancy or not pregnancy aside, there's so much misunderstood about ovulation. There's starting to be more information, but I grew up, I was in high school in the late 90s and entered college 1995, and it was like there were pills that you could stop your bleed altogether and you don't need your period. It was kind of the thought of like, you don't even need your period. Just get rid of it and just suppress ovulation and you don't have to deal with it. And that was the mindset. And when I started to study what happens during ovulation, I mean, now it's considered the fifth vital sign. If someone is not having natural ovulation, there's a problem. You just like, if your heart rate's off, if your blood pressure's off, if you're not naturally ovulating, we know that there's a reason. We need to look at that reason. So that's another reason why it's so important for girls to be able to track that. If you're not ovulating, I mean, ovulation is giving you healthy amounts of hormones, yes, but it's also promoting, helping your brain and your mood and your bone. I mean, when we're shutting down ovulation for a decade or two, that's affecting bone growth. And then women get into their 40s and 50s and wonder why they have osteoporosis, and nobody was told that.
Yeah.
Cardiovascular health, brain health, bone health. I mean, there's so many benefits of ovulation. And then you get to my age, women that had shut down ovulation for 2 decades, and they're like, well, now you need HRT. Now we need to give you extra hormones because you didn't have them for, it's just, there's so much information women really deserve to have about how their bodies work. So that and again, they might still choose to do birth control, but at least they had really good information, because I think they deserve that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can talk about this for a long time.
So as we're thinking about teaching our daughters, what are some common like misunderstandings or myths or something that you think girls are picking up right now about
That's
their
a good
period body
question.
cycles?
Yeah, I mean, again, the myth that it's annoying, that it's cumbersome, that our periods are stupid, that we don't need them. Some of the things I've already said. Why have it? Why have your period at all? That the period itself, the bleed itself, is the main event, and ignoring ovulation and not even knowing how to identify that. Um, I think just the mindset about it is the myth. Is like, it's just not important. We don't have to think about that unless we're wanting to become pregnant, when it's part of our entire health, the health of being a woman. When you start having ovulation, you start having a cycle, it's about so much more than pregnancy. Yes, we have this potential or possible potential of getting pregnant one day, but it's about so much more than that, and it's about your entire health. So knowing how to track, it's a way to track your health. And so I think that's the biggest message I want girls and their moms to have. And if ovulation, if something's off with that, then we need to look at why, because we need to support the body. And because if our bodies are only going to ovulate if they feel safe, and I mean safe, they have the right minerals and nutrients, and their nervous system is intact, like, if they're not ovulating, then we need to look at, are they getting enough calories and all these things. It's a way to assess health, actually. So I really want people to know ovulation is really important, and we should be ovulating. And if we're not, we need to look at why. So it's a health marker, I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you then describe or explain a period to a young girl?
Yeah. I would say when your body starts to have a period, your womb inside your body, where a potential baby later on could grow, your womb is starting to practice building up and making a home for a potential baby one day. And every month it does that, it just practices until your body is ready. And not every woman can have a baby, but your body does practice, and it's part of your natural hormones. I tell them a little bit about what hormones are. They're chemical messengers, and they do lots of good things. I just keep it very basic. They do lots of good things for our brains and our bodies. And every month our hormones shift, and that's what they're supposed to do. And so, the period, the actual bleed is just one part of that whole cycle. And our bodies just need a lot of care depending on what part of that, cycle we're in. We just need to listen to our bodies and take care of them. So we talk about that a lot in the course. We teach them the phases of the cycle and how you might feel in those phases and what your body might need during those phases too. And I think that body literacy and that body awareness really serves them well as they move into womanhood, because it's not something to set aside. We really need to pay attention. If our mood is off or if our energy is low, we really need to care for ourselves well. And that's just the joy of being a woman. So that's kind of how I talk about the period, depending on the age of the girl, that it's kind of a practice for maybe potentially one day having a baby.
Yeah, I like that. So, what should every girl know before her first period happens?
Yeah. Well, again, I think she should know what is actually happening in her body, why those hormones are important, why they cycle. I think she should have, a conversation with her mama, just if her mama's in her life, or grandmama or someone that's mother-like in her life, to say okay, you need to have a little period pack with you and have, here's the supplies, and explain how those work. Somebody showing you maybe how the pad works and where it goes, so that she, she's going to feel nervous about it, but to take some of her nerves away. And then I think every girl who hasn't started their period is worried about when it might start and what she might be doing when it starts. So talking through some of those scenarios can be really helpful for a young girl. And it's okay if it happens at school. Here's what you could do to give her kind of a plan, because I know that depending on the girl's personality could just kind of weigh on her when she's waiting for her cycle, and let her know girls start at all different times. So just because your friends started, if you haven't, doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. And just giving her that reassurance as she needs it, I think is really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned this earlier. What's the age range like that's pretty typical now for girls to start? I think maybe you said 12 or 13. Is that about?
Yeah. 9 to 13. I would say 11 to 13 is probably average, but anywhere from 9 to 15 girls start. So it really depends. But yeah, that middle part of that range is the most common for girls. And even if they have like lots of signs, they have pubic hair, or hair under their arms, and breast buds forming, their mood's shifting, they might have some body odor. It's not always a predictable timeline of when they might start their actual cycle. So you're just watching and letting them know these are all signs that you're developing really normally. And helping them know that. And we just don't know when when you'll start bleeding or ovulating, but we're looking for those signs. I mean, even one of my daughters is like, oh yeah, I've noticed a little bit of the mucus in my underwear once in a while. And it's like, okay, that's great. Your body is practicing, it's getting ready. So it's probably going to happen before long, so they're just starting to be more aware. And I think that that's really good and healthy. And it's opening this conversation between the mom and the girl too, that we can talk about this. It's okay. And this is our girl club. These are the things we talk about. And if you do that with her when it's appropriate, developmentally appropriate and otherwise, I think that really helps her know that she can talk about it with you. So
That's good. Yeah, one of
yeah.
the questions I was going to ask is what are the signs? So
Yeah.
you say
Yes.
hair, body
Yeah.
odor, mood swings, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes, totally. Those are usually signs of puberty. And again, like those can go in different orders. It's usually over the course of a couple of years that you start to notice some of those things. So it's hard to know exactly when the cycle might start, but those are the things you're usually looking for.
Okay. Okay, so you mentioned like a period kit. What would you put in like a period kit for a girl who's like not knowing when she might start her period?
Yeah. So definitely supplies. And I kind of show her different supplies before she starts her cycle, but I also tell her some of these supplies are a little more advanced. So, there's, most girls are going to start with pads. And I always tell moms, a lot of the products on the market are pretty toxic and you need to be careful because that's very sensitive tissue. Obviously, you're putting it in your body or right on your vulva. You want to have really good products. So, if at all possible, I mean, I've seen organic tampons at the dollar store. So, there's a lot more options, but you want to try to get organic because that's really in an area that's high absorption in the body. So, try to pick really good products, and pads are going to be what most girls start with. So have a few different sizes in her period kit and explain to her, okay, this little one is for when you're just spotting or you're waiting for it to start and you're not sure, you can use this. And then this medium one is when it's kind of medium flow, and kind of show her how to use it. I think that's really important. So definitely several different size pads. And then when she's ready, obviously things like tampons, showing her how to use those, or even, I showed my daughter's cups, menstrual cups, and um, gave them that option when they were ready, but not all girls are. And then period underwear is another option that they have now that's really, really great. There's some great companies. Salt is one of the companies that makes great period underwear. So I think just having those options ready to go even before her cycle starts, showing her how to use them is really great. And sometimes, even in the class I teach, we make a little period kit and I put in there a tea that's really great for your cycle, and having some other things in there that just make her feel good. Or some girls get self-conscious about odor. during their period. And so you could put we make little essential oil rollers in the class just to have that in there. If you're worried about smelling bad, you can just put that on and people will smell that instead. So just talking through some of those aspects of having your cycle can be really helpful. And it's kind of neat. And like, you can put it in your bag. No one will know what it is. It's just a little zipper kit. And you can have it in there ready to go.
I like that. I like the essential oil thing. I don't think I would have thought
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
Okay, something I think is important. How do dads or like other caregivers support this conversation? Like, how do they fit into this conversation?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I think, um, it can be tricky because depending on the girl's personality, sometimes I remember my parents were divorced. I literally still remember the day my mom called my dad to tell him I had started my period, and I was horrified. I was like, the next time dad sees me, he's going to treat me weird. And I just overthought the whole thing, because I was 13 and self-conscious anyway. So I think you just really have to honor the type of girl that you have. And I really think asking permission to tell dad, of course, you're going to tell your husband, but for it to be known, out in she might not want the whole family to know, or, just say, like, I want to tell your dad because he's your dad and he loves you. And this is an, important part of your life. But dad, doesn't think you're any, this is weird. This is just part of being a girl, and dad knows that. And just trying to be sensitive about her feelings, about other people knowing, I think. And, I have very different daughters with very different personalities. So one of them talks about everything out in the open. So everyone will know when she starts her period. My other daughter is very different. So it really just depends on their personality, but I think dads, my daughters know that my husband goes and buys feminine products at the store for me. Um, and it's just a normal part of our family life. So letting them know dad knows about all this. It's not a secret to him. He does know that you've started your period and loves you, and it's okay. Like, if you need time in your room or you're not feeling great, it's okay. Dad knows and he wants to support and love you. So it really just depends on the family dynamic and the girl's personality, how to have those conversations. So I don't know if I have a really good answer for that.
No, that's okay. I have another question and I just thought of it. So it might be putting you on
Yeah.
the spot.
Yeah.
What about sons?
Uh-huh.
Did you take some time to like teach your sons? Because obviously they're gonna grow up. They're already growing,
Yeah.
they're already growing for you, but like, they're gonna get married, they're gonna have wives and daughters. So did you have like a specific conversation with them at all about this?
Yeah. So again, for better or for worse, I'm kind of a verbal processor. So whatever I'm experiencing, usually people know in our household. And I think that there are some downsides to that, but I think there are a lot of upsides. So I have just always said, not constantly, but it's not uncommon for my sons to hear, mommy just started her period. She's going to lay down for a little bit. Or, I'll kind of just say something about like the phase of my cycle that I'm in. I just need a little more space. I'm a little more irritated, or I like, and so they know, or I just started my period, so I'm not going to go with you to the pool or something like that. I just kind of say it like it's just a normal part of life. And so it's not this other thing to them. They're like, oh yeah, that's part of being a woman. And I think that really helps them. As I said, my son is engaged to be married. And I think it's just not a problem for, them to talk about these things because it's just been part of our family conversation. This is just part of being in a family and part of being human. And they need to know that women have these cycles and what they're like for us. I think if we share some of our experience, of course, we don't want to share it all, but I think if we share some of our experience, it helps them understand and build empathy. For the fact that we do have to shift. Our hormones are shifting. It's different. Guys have a 24-hour cycle and we have a 30-day cycle. And they've heard me even say things like, oh, it's a full moon. I should be starting my period. Because I even track that and they're like, but that's normal to them too, that I'm paying attention to that. So because I get so excited about these things, they hear these stories. They're like, oh, so they probably know more than most boys, but I think it's good for them. I think that they'll have so much more insight when they have if and when they have significant others. I think they'll just have so much more insight. So I think it's good, again, at the right time, depending on the maturity, but for them to just know it's part of family life. They wouldn't
Yeah.
be here without it.
They're going to need to know it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I like that. So,
Yeah.
part of this teaching our daughters, I think, also is advocating for them when it comes to, you were talking about how noticing when things aren't necessarily right or,
Yes.
where they may have a problem. So, I know for my experience, like I had really horrible periods.
Yep.
And the solution then was birth control. And it was just like,
Mhm.
that was the first and only thing that the doctor said. And there wasn't really any other conversation. And my mom didn't really know any better and I didn't know any better. So I was like, sure. Knowing what I know now,
Yeah.
I would not have wanted to do that. I would have gone to see a pelvic floor therapist. I would have worked on my liver. Like there's all kinds of stuff I would have done. So as moms, how can we advocate for our daughters if they may have some difficulty during, these times?
Yeah. Well, I think the first step is knowing what's normal and what's not. And not waiting until it's so debilitating. In the course I teach, we talk about, yes, you might have discomfort with your cycle, some cramping. You might need to slow down, but if it's really stopping you from doing life, that's when we need to have a discussion of like, what can we do? Um, and while there are medications to take to kind of lessen how, some of those symptoms, if it continues or your bleeds are really, really heavy and you're soaking through, or you have really severe cramps that just take you out, then we need to be asking, what's going on here? What is the imbalance? And I think just letting moms know it's good for you to ask the question why, or what can we do to support, if moms know that birth control, a lot of times physicians will say birth control helps regulate the cycle, and that's just not true. It doesn't regulate anything, it shuts the whole thing down. And I think once a mom understands that, then she's more likely to seek outside options than birth control because, yeah, and if she understands how important ovulation is, there are many practitioners, including me, that help offer other solutions and help get to the bottom of what is actually going on. Um, at the end of my course, I usually send a little flyer to the moms with some basic things that can really help. I mean, there's some very simple things that can help ease some of the symptoms of a cycle if it's really severe, or things you should think about if the cycle is absent. If she's not ovulating and not bleeding, then we need to think about, okay, what do we need to look at nutritionally and otherwise? Maybe she's in sports and really pushing herself and not getting the nutrition she needs. So we start to talk through some of those things instead of just medicating it away, because long term, that's not going to be in the benefit of the girl. So, yeah,
So birth control, maybe not the first thing they should go for.
not in my opinion. I know many women that regret that. Yeah,
Yes. Me being one of them for sure.
yeah.
Um, so how can we help teach our girls to listen to their bodies then?
Yeah. Again, just them understanding what is happening is the beginning of that. And then learning as she learns the cycle that a woman goes through every 30-ish days, then she can pay attention a little bit more and really care for herself well and know when she needs to slow down. Sometimes life doesn't shift the way we want it to when we are having, a hard period day, or we need to slow down. I know mine doesn't. As a mom, like, why does everyone need me? I'm at the end of my luteal phase. But to a certain extent, when we're aware, if something I talk about in the class is if your mood if you find yourself crying and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I looked at my chart and I'm about to start my period. And I know I need to go to bed a little bit earlier on these days. And I need to drink some tea and I need to just slow down, maybe taking a bath. I need to care for myself in a really particular way because I know that these days leading up into my bleed are a little bit harder for me. I need to nourish with really good food. I think I ate too much sugar and now I'm an emotional wreck. So they start to learn those things. And it's just lifelong lessons of being a woman. How can we care for ourselves? I know, like, it's easy to eat a pan of brownies when you're emotional, but then you feel worse afterwards. So just the awareness of like, that's really not going to be in my benefit if I do that. And a mom modeling those things too is really, really powerful for the girls.
I like that because I was always be so surprised when I'd have like my days of anger is what I would call them. They'd be like one or 2 days where I'd just be really angry for no reason. Like
Yeah.
things would make me so angry. And then the next like I'd start my period and I'd be like, oh yeah.
Oh,
I was
yes.
just tracking this. I would have understood
Totally.
it.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
helps. Just that awareness, like, oh yeah, that's coming. So I need to chill out. I need to maybe have a little more space from people. And yeah, it's good.
And is there a less intensive way that you teach younger girls to like track their cycle, or is it pretty much the same um, as how you track yours?
So initially, in the course, we teach them to really pay attention to just a couple of things. So keep track of obviously when the bleed is happening. So the bleed is kind of the end part, the end result when the uterus is shedding its lining. So keep track of those days when you first bleed. That's day one, but it's kind of the end of a cycle. So keep track of that. And if they want to keep track of kind of how they feel at the different phases of their cycle, that's kind of a little more advanced skills, but that's going to give them insight over time. And then we really, really want them to learn to keep track of when they feel that mucus, because that is how we know we're ovulating. They need to know you're usually going to have, some wet days. It's going to feel a little bit wet, maybe creamy, and then it's going to get egg yolk like at the peak of ovulation when you get ready to ovulate. So once they start to notice that, that is really, again, the fifth vital sign. I want them to know that the bleeding is fine. We're going to see that and note that. That's easy to note. But starting to pay attention to what the toilet paper feels like when they wipe and to take note of that and what does it look like and showing them, okay, it might look like lotion or it might be a little more creamy. It might be just a wet sensation. But when it's really egg white, like we know that ovulation is happening. So I think that's the most important for them to learn over time. It's really what I focus on in the class is ovulation. So
So for younger girls, you're basically just telling them how does it feel when you wipe. You're not having them like touch it or
yeah,
anything.
kind of. I
Or
mean, yeah, they can touch it. I think it just raising that with that body literacy, raising awareness of
Mhm.
what kind of it might change over the course of few days. That's normal. Um, even showing them pictures of what it might look like or feel like. Some of them will be more curious than others, but one of the best ways is after you wipe to kind of look at the toilet paper and like you'll know if you wipe and it's kind of slippery, like ooh, and then you can look at it and see, and you're just getting to know how your body works. And so you can say it's gross or weird, but this is your body, this is what it's doing, and you are the expert of your body. And so that awareness, once you know why it's there, it is again very empowering for the girl. She's like, oh, I know what's going on. And
yeah.
that's kind of cool to watch. Yeah.
No, that's good. Okay, yeah, I was just trying to process like 9 to 12
Yeah.
year olds. I mean, like the pictures in the taking charge of your fertility book, they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, just between your fingers and do this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a 9-year-old, like
Yeah,
obviously
we give
9
them a
probably
really
not.
simple paper chart that they can use, and I give every girl that chart in the class. And so, and I kind of fold it up and put it in their period kit, and they can start to use that whenever they want, whenever they feel ready. And we give them a little kind of a code for how to chart. We teach that in the course. So, um, and then of course, my kids don't get a phone till high school because we're old school. But once
Mhm.
they have a phone, then there's different apps that they can use, when they're a little bit older to chart that way. But I think it's really good to learn on paper when you're
Yeah.
younger.
No, I
Yeah.
like that. That's good. Okay, so what's one thing you wish every mom would say to their daughter about their period?
Yeah. That it's a gift. That it's a gift to be a woman, that our bodies are amazing, and that learning how our bodies work is an amazing process that we get to do together. It's a privilege. So yeah, I think just I wish every mom could talk positively about this for the daughter instead of starting off like, "Oh, it's something you have to deal with. It's terrible." I would just encourage moms to talk positively about it because they don't it's like, the moms that don't if you don't like spinach, you don't feed it to your kids. You're like, "It's spinach is terrible." Well, your kid might like spinach. Like, like, don't assume that they're gonna hate it because you are. And I think the way that we talk about our bodies in general is really, really important. If they're hearing us say, look at this fat belly and I don't like this, they're going to learn that. And so we just have a responsibility as moms to learn about our bodies ourselves and to do everything we can to honor these bodies that we've been given, and teach our girls that are wonderfully made and we have this amazing just opportunity to steward our bodies and our cycles well. And whether we have children or not, it is a gift. So good health is a gift. And so we steward that. So like everything else we've been given. So I would just encourage moms try to talk positively and just be aware of kind of your own history a little bit and in thinking about this. I think there's a lot for moms to process usually in like you were saying in your house, how it was talked about or your own experience. If you had really hard cycles, it's hard to talk about it positively. But how could you reframe things for your daughter and give her, a positive experience? How can you support her through that? Is something to think about.
All right. So if there's a mom that's listening that feels like awkward or uncomfortable
Mm,
starting this conversation, maybe their daughter's already a little older and they didn't have the verbal processing that you
Yep.
do,
Yep.
where should they begin?
Yeah, depending on our age, I really would encourage moms to look up Natural Womanhood and the Period Genius program. So I teach this course in a workshop style. Again, they're videos but you can actually purchase the videos and just do it with your daughter. And maybe just doing that one-on-one for certain daughters, or if they feel older, or like they're behind, that would be a great way to learn. But learning together could be really, really great. Of course, there are books, but some of them might overwhelm the girls. So I do think the Period Genius curriculum is really, really good. And you can, again, purchase that on your own or take a course, like a workshop like I lead. But I think it's a great place to start. But Natural Womanhood is a really awesome resource for all women to get good information about all sorts of women's health issues. So even if you're like, I wonder what app I should use, they like review apps and review books and things on there. So it's a great resource.
I love that. And
Yeah.
if somebody wants to get in contact with you, how can we
Yeah.
get into contact with you?
Yeah. So my website is rootedhealthhome.com. And yeah, I do one-to-one consults. I teach courses on how to use homeopathy and natural medicine in the home. And then, of course, I do these workshops with young girls and their moms, which is it's kind of a passion project I do on the side, but I really love it. So I did 8 the first year, and we'll see how many I do this next year, but it's been really, really fun. So, yeah, feel free to use me as a resource for any women's health needs, but also, yeah, any, recommendations that you want for not only young girls, but other female issues. I love just sharing with anyone that will listen.
Yeah. Well, I know that in particular, everyone that listens to my podcast will get a lot out of this conversation. I'm in all of the like mom Facebook groups,
Yeah.
on Facebook for all the cities around here. And I almost a couple of times a week at least, I see moms in there going, oh, my
Yeah.
daughter has terrible periods and they want to put her on birth control. Which one's the best? Or like, she's really struggling with this and like that. And so it's a very needed thing for people to learn
Yeah.
about. And it's encouraging to see that people are wanting to learn about it.
Totally.
And even more encouraging to talk with people like you who are super passionate about helping
Yeah.
people learn it.
Yeah.
So
It's a really terrible feeling as a mom to feel like my kid is hurting or suffering and I don't know what to do. I don't feel like there's a lot of options. So I really that's why moms are my number one market, because moms are making healthcare decisions for their entire family usually. And so if I can educate moms, then literally that's how we change the healthcare. We don't have good healthcare going on. So we can teach moms other options and they feel confident and equipped in their homes. That's how we're going to change health of everyone. So I would really love to meet with any mom that needs other resources or just options for their daughter. I love talking about that stuff.
yeah. Well, I'll put your Instagram link and your website and all that stuff in the show notes so that anybody can reach out and talk to you. But thank
That's
you
all.
so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, this has been so fun. Thanks for just inviting me on and I'm just excited that you wanted to talk about this. And yeah, thank you so much, Allie. I love what you do.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I wasn't lying at the beginning of this episode, right? Are you just not fired up to like go take this class with your daughter? I'm like sitting here thinking, man, my daughter's only 3. Like it's going to take at least 6 years before she's ready for this course. But I'm so excited. I'm so thankful that Jennie came on to talk to you guys. And I hope that you take away as much as I did. And make sure that you look in the comments in the show notes. It has her information, her website, and her Instagram, so you can reach out to her and connect with her. And make sure that while you're there, you leave me a rating and review and sign up for my free weekly email newsletter so you can get more tips about motherhood and marriage and all the things. And I'll see you guys back next week.